Hi, I'm Mark. Welcome back to Foothill Paint Fabrication. Well, today we're back on the 65 Chevelle and we're on the quest to make as factory looking AC system inside this car as possible. If you guys own a 65 Chevelle or El Camino, you know those parts, nobody's making repops of this stuff. So we're trying to mix and match and do what we can to make it look as factory as possible. Today we're going to be working on the center vent that's right above the radio and try to get that worked out and make it look really good. So let's just jump over to the bench real quick and take a look at what we got going on today. Okay, we have the dash insert or cluster up on the bench here, and as you guys can tell, it's in really great shape. I'm quite certain this is a repop. There's just no way it would look this good if it was original. So we have to strip all the gauges out of it to get to work on it, but these are all getting replaced with Dakota digital gauges, so it doesn't really matter. These are going to come out and the owner's going to sell them. We'll reuse all the knobs and everything, but we're going to get all that cleaned up so we can work with this thing. Now on a 65, they had 3 vents. There may have been one down by the floor, I'm not positive. And 2 are on the sides out by the doors that we already cut the holes for. And then the third one went in the dash right here, right where the Chevelle emblem was. So there was a small rectangle. Actually, I can see the outline of it right here because there's a boss. They embossed it on the back to cut it out. And you cut that out and you put a vent through there. The problem is you cannot get the vents for 65. If you find them on eBay, they're pitted, they're destroyed, and they're hella expensive. So we decided to go a different route. Now, like I said earlier, we're on a quest to make this look as factory as possible. So what I did was we found the vent off a 66 Chevelle. And here it is right here. It's a repop. It's a nice unit. I think it was $85, $90. Comes with the vent box in the back to hook the hoses to. And so this is longer. This dimension across here is longer than the original one. But, you know, we're trying to make it look as factory as possible. So it's just going to have a bigger vent right there. And in my opinion, and John, the owner's opinion, it's way better than using, Vintage Air's little vents and stuff like that. They don't look period correct. Where this is going to look period correct, it's just going to be a little bit bigger. So I went ahead and drilled the rivets out so I could separate this. Now we're going to have to modify this a little bit later because the way it angles, I think it's going to block the stereo. It's going to get in the way of the stereo. So we'll work on that later. But our plan and problems for today is how to cut this perfect rectangle in this dash. Now this has a nice, I don't know if you guys can see that, but it has a nice little chrome part that sticks out here. So all we have to do is get this dimension, this rectangle, and then transfer it on here and cut that perfectly. Now, I've woke up in the middle of the night a couple of times trying to think this through, and I think I got a pretty good game plan on how to do it without screwing it up. So let's go ahead and get the gauges stripped out of here and get this dash panel cleaned up, and then we'll work on getting this hole cut. Okay, we got the dash all stripped down so it's easy to handle. There's nothing in our way. And I went ahead and measured this out a couple of times, and the vent off the 66 measures 1 3/8 high by 7.5 inches long. So if you're thinking about doing this. So the part we were going to be using is there's 2 steps on here. I don't know if you guys can see that, but there's a little tiny step, and there's the back of the bezel, and then this one that sticks out fairly proud right there. That's the one we're going to cut, try to slide that through from the back, and so it'll look real nice. Now, cutting this hole is going to be tricky, getting it right on the money so it looks good, but we have a few things going for us here. This is all chrome, and this is chrome. So once it slides through the back, if this rectangle isn't cut perfect, you're going to see chrome, you know. So now if this was black and that was chrome or vice versa, you're going to see that contrast, and you're going to see the line that goes up and down, or maybe you overcut or something. So for now, all we have to do is figure out where we want it, left to right. These little ears right here, these are for mounts for the 66. We do not need those, so I'm going to carefully cut those off and get them out of my way. I have no use for them. We're going to attach it with the bosses that are on the back already, and then hopefully get this hole cut properly. Now I'll bring you in close. I got a few ideas on how to cut that hole, and I got to do a couple of practice runs with my idea, and then I'll bring you in and we'll get this laid out and hopefully cut this hole first shot, because I don't want to buy another dash. Okay, I got my template built, and the way I built it was, this is just 1x Doug fir, and I cut a piece of wood the exact size I wanted the opening. So this is the exact size of this, but just a little bit bigger. And the reason I made it a little bit bigger is because every time I try to make things precision like NASA, it bites me in the butt. So I've given myself about a 1/16 on each side all the way around, to maybe less than a 1/16, for a little bit of wiggle room to make sure that's going to work, okay? And then, so what I did was I took the block, and I put all these blocks around it, I clamped it all together, then I drilled and screwed it, and then I knocked the block out, and now I know that's perfectly square, and it's the right size I want. So, to get this to fit on, I can't cut from the front side because the way the dash is shaped. I just can't get in there to do it, so I have to cut it from the back side. So I made this so it'll fit on the back side. Let me grab the dash. So on the dash, you can see right here, they've already, there's a kind of a molded area where you can cut out for, you know, the factory 65, but unfortunately we can't get that. So, and they put these nice screw bosses on here, which is going to be perfect to, you know, hold this down. So those are going to work out great. Now, I had to try to get this to fit over and go around these bosses here. So what I did was I took a 3/4 inch flat wood spade bit, and I just kind of drilled over and left myself about a 1/4 inch and drilled straight down, and so I could clear those. And then on this one, it's a little bit of an angle, so I just took the burr tool and I just kind of gouged that out. So now this fits down right on there flat, and then I can see my line and their molded line here to cut for the 65 opening, and they're perfectly parallel, so it's going to work out great. And this thing, I lucked out, that 3/4 inch spade bit, it locks this in. It won't move side to side. So I'm going to put a clamp around here and clamp it down to the plastic, and I'm going to try to get a clamp on this side, and then I'm going to take the oscillating tool, and then I'm just going to run it down just like this, and these sides are nice and tall, so I make sure I'm straight up and down, and I'm just going to cut all that plastic out. Now, I did some test runs with some plastic, and you guys know you cut plastic, the blade gets hot and it just starts melting its way through. I want it to cut its way through, so I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to have a cup of cold water, maybe with some ice in it, and I'm just going to keep dunking the blade, and then do a little cutting, dunk the blade and cool it, and cut, and you know, and just keep going that way. That way it doesn't ball up and try to weld itself back together. So this is my solution. I hope it works out. I think it will. I'm kind of confident it will. I just need to figure out how to get this clamped up. So I'm going to work on that next, and then I'll bring you back, and we're going to be ready to cut. Okay, I got it all clamped up. And I put a block on the other side to protect everything, and also that way when I'm cutting, it'll cut onto something and not just blow through. So I got a C-clamp going through the radio hole right here, and then I have an F-clamp going through the lighter hole, and I've got some blocks on here to prop that up. And it's clamped on there pretty good. I don't think it's going to move. And there's no easy way to clamp this, to hold this down while I cut. So I'm just going to kind of hang on to it and just use the tool right down here. I've got some water right here to cool the blade, and all there's left to do is give it a shot. So here we go. I'm going to keep the speed as low as possible on the tool. That way it doesn't overheat. And here we go. Okay, it's going pretty good. got plastic, not melted, so that's a good thing. So I think the water and just going slow is working. Now, I can't tell when I'm making it through because that board's on the other side, but I don't think I've made it through. I've just realized another problem. I measured this before I started, and this fit inside there, but when it's oscillating, I think it hits the width of this. So I'm going to have to double check that real quick on a test piece and see how wide this oscillates back and forth. It doesn't look that big, so I think we're okay. I think it's right at the limit of this width, so I'm really lucky if I could actually grind that down, and I may take it over the belt sander and grind it a little more narrow. As soon as I get these big long runs done, then I'll go ahead and sand that down a little bit and make it a little more narrow so it doesn't overcut on the ends. So I'm going to cut a little bit more here, and then we're going to modify that blade a little bit and then cut these ends. Okay, I got it modified. Let's go ahead and finish this cut. Okay, I'm pretty sure I'm all the way through. It feels like I went through, so I'm going to double check all that and let me see what's going on, and then I'll bring you back. I do not want to take the template off till I'm sure, just in case I need to do some more cutting. So I'll probably take a knife and I'll probe through there to see if I can feel the wood on the other side. If I can, I think the only place I need to keep cutting is the corners, because that oscillating tool kind of bounces off that corner. It doesn't want to cut straight down in the corner. So let me check this out, and I'll bring you back. Okay, I don't know how well you guys can see in there, but this line is nice and straight. It's parallel to this one. Pretty clean cuts. Pretty happy about that. The part doesn't want to pop out. It's loose in the middle, but it's still tight on the corner. So I'm going to take a knife real carefully and cut these off camera, and then I'll bring you back and we'll get some of this, see how it looks. I got a little bit of plastic pushed through here, but it's mostly on this side, not on the good side. So let me get this cut out, and then I'll bring you back. We'll see how it looks. Okay, we got the piece out. It's I guess a souvenir John can hang on his garage door. And the hole came out really, really nice. I don't know how well you guys can see, but it came out really nice. So what I did was, where's my block? I took a block with something like this is 240 on it, and I sanded around there real lightly just to kind of clean up some of that plastic and smooth that line out real nice. And then I took it at an angle, because this chrome on this plastic is kind of like foil. So then I just took it at an angle like this, and I just filed it or sanded it at an angle and kind of just broke that edge over all the way around, and it made it look so much better. So it's looking really nice. I don't know if well you guys can see it. Try not to hide anything from you guys. It came out pretty darn good. So let's see how it looks with the vent in there. All right, let me get that straightened out. All right. Well, you guys can see, but that looks pretty darn good right there. We've got it centered perfectly over the radio. So that was the whole idea. I wanted it to be symmetrical straight over the radio, and it's looking really good. I nailed that. And I don't know how well you guys can see, but that looks pretty darn good. And that's going to look good inside the car with the air blowing through it on a hot summer day. So that part's done, and I'm relieved. That's the third hole I've had to cut in this car and be perfect, right on the money. So hopefully I don't have any more to cut, because this is getting a little bit rough on my nerves. So now what do we need to do next is make some clips. Now remember, we have these screw bosses right here, so we need to make some sort of little sheet metal clip that'll spread out the load on this one, and two small ones here, so I can grab that little flange right here and hold that down to this, and then we can start figuring out that how to get the air into this vent right here. So let's figure out some clips. Okay, I got some clips made. I just took some sheet metal and bent it into kind of an L with a little lip on here, and punched a hole in it. And I made a big one for here and two small ones for the back side. And for screws, these screw bosses, they were a little big in diameter, and I tried to cut a big fat screw down, and it just didn't feel like it was working right. And these may be stud holes anyway, so what I did was just cut down some, I think those are 832 screws, just cut the heads off, mixed up some epoxy, and just poked it down in there, and then pushed those in and made studs out of them, so it's going to work out really good. And then it's just a matter of dropping the vent on. And then when I get this all put together and finalized, I'll make sure it's lined up perfectly. But for now, we're just going to stick it together, check the fit up inside, see how it looks, and then we're going to figure out what that AC duct connector, what we're going to do there. So we had a couple of different ideas of what we want to do on this. One was run, so we have 4 ducts available for the Vintage Air. So this one takes 1, then we have 1 each for the left and right side, and that left us 1 extra. But this vent is so large, I'm afraid it's not going to blow very hard with just 1 vent on it. So I'm thinking we're going to run 2 tubes up here and have this thing blow really well. The other option was to run 1 here and then hide a vent up underneath the dash you can't see and have that blow along the floor. So let me get this screwed on here real tight and lined up so it looks decent, and then we'll stick it in the car and see how it looks. Okay, that looks pretty good to me. I like it. Now we got the vent over here on this side, we got the one over there, and now we got the center vent. So may not be exactly 65 factory, but it looks pretty darn close. Let's figure out the duct in the back. Okay, so I had this up in there. I crawled up in there with the flashlight and looked around. Now the vent does reattach back on here, but it's off a 66, so it's totally different design dash. So getting it to fit and work is problematic. For one thing, the radio goes right through here. So this is kind of curved down too much, and there's just no room for a radio. So that's a problem right there. So we could just take a pie wedge out of here, bend this up, plastic weld it back together, be out of the way. But the defrost vent is right here up underneath, and I'll show you guys that in a minute. But the radio problem, the defrost vent, and then there's a brace that goes from the bottom of the dash to the firewall that braces that dash, keeps it from shaking. It gets right in the way here. Now, the volume of air that Vintage Air systems have put out per hose is pretty good. But if you put that smaller hose on a big opening like this to divert it, I just don't think it's going to have much velocity. It's just not going to work very well. So I think the plan is to cut these off right here and then discard this part and run 2 hoses up to this. And this opening is pretty much the same size as a Vintage Air vent. So I think the best bet for us is to refit this. So I have the Vintage Air balls that came with the kit, right? So what I did was you just take the ball part off, and we'll discard that. Now we have the circle that hose fits on. It's got the barbs and everything. So my plan is to cut this off and attach this on right there. Now, obviously, that's a rectangle. This is a circle, so we're going to have to do some modifying to get this to, go together smoothly and make sure the air flows properly. But that should be easy compared to cutting that hole and doing all that. So I'm going to go ahead and get this cut up, and then we're going to start figuring out how I'll probably warm this piece up and try to make it into a rectangle. And then so that way we can epoxy or plastic weld this on here. So let me get that cut right here, and then we'll move forward on getting this thing worked out. Okay, so what we have here's the defroster vent that Vintage Air sends. You have to cut the other one out. A little tip: do not try to drill out the spot welds and chisel them off. Just cut the sheet metal parts away and leave the strips behind that are spot welded, because there's a good chance that you go knock a hole in the windshield wiper cowl right here, and then it's going to leak. So some knucklehead had a fix spot right here that he did exactly that. So it's just glued on there. I put some adhesive on it, prop some stir sticks up, and let it dry overnight. So here's our vents right here.
So here's the one, and you can see it's blocking the hole for the defroster vent on this side. So this one's going to have to be angled over. This one over here has got plenty of clearance, so that's going to be no problem at all. So we're going to have to get this kind of angled over and get it to work. So let's move back over to the bench and figure out how to hook round tubes to square holes.
Okay, I tested the piece that I cut off with the heat gun. It warms up nicely and it's really easy to manipulate. This is pretty thin plastic. So I've decided instead of making this into a square, I want to make this round. And if I do it properly, I won't even need this piece. We'll make this round enough so that hose slides right over it and we'll attach it that way. So, but I had to find something to heat this up and then push in there to make it round. So I just started walking around looking, and this is a little miniature beer glass I had in the cupboard. So it fits in here right here, but it's tapered out. So we're just going to heat this up and cram that in there and let it cool, and hopefully we'll make a circle. I want to heat these corners really good, because those are the ones we want to go flatten out a little bit. And it'll probably take multiple steps to get this done, and maybe even a different glass. I may have to go back in the house and look through the cupboard again. But this little one here will get us started, and the glass should pull the heat out of the plastic so it'll stiffen back up pretty quickly. I'm just going to heat this up, and then I'll bring you back. All right, let's give this a try here. Let's make a pretty good, nice circle there. Just going to hold it on there, let it cool. Ooh, the plastic's hot. All right, we're going to let that cool a little bit, and we'll pull the glass out and see where we're at. Okay, I think it's cool enough to hold its shape. Oh yeah, that came out nice. That's not a perfect circle, but it's that looks pretty good. So we might be able to just put the hose over here and just put a zip tie on it, because that is kind of flared, right? So it can't pull off. So I got a piece of the hose right here, so I could start testing this stuff. Let's see. It kind of seals up against there, and we could just put a zip tie around there, cable tie, pull that tight, and that one's done. Look at that. That's going to work out great. All right, well, let's move on to the hard one. We did the easy one first. I don't think we're going to get away with an old beer glass and getting that one to work. So now we have to try to figure out how to make this into something we can attach the hose to. So you know, the way that turned and went away, we lucked out on this one. It was just a straight snout. So this one, it's got a little bit of a straight snout right here. And but I don't think we have enough plastic to do the heat up and turn into stuff with beer glass, mini beer glass into it to get it to work. So we're going to have to come up with another plan. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this away right here, so we have some room. Now remember, it has to go at an angle. So we're going to have to come away from this lip right here and somehow attach this onto there. So I think we're going to have to try to turn this one into a rectangle to fit over that and just epoxy it together. So let me make a couple of cuts. I'm gonna figure the angle I need right here, and we'll get that cut, and then we'll just kind of start hand piecing this together and figuring it out as we go. Okay, so on this one, I need more plastic, because obviously this one curled this way and we need it to curl the other way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a cut right here, just to right here, and then I'm going to make a cut right here, and I'm going to try to heat this up and bend that back around, because I need that material, and then we can decide what we're going to do up here on the top. So I'm going to make that cut real quick, and then we'll get to heating and see what happens. That's too hot. I need some gloves. Now we'll just kind of hold that over. It's burning my fingers. We'll let it cool, and I'm sure we're going to have to do it again. So, but this will get us at least straight and closer to where we need to be. Okay guys, I made some progress with the heat gun. Just kept heating it and molding it, and I cut it, I split it, and I folded it together, and then I got the old trusty soldering iron out, soldering gun, and just kind of melted, welded that back together. It's not pretty. I'm going to try to clean that up a little bit. But so now we're kind of back, we're almost even with the other side. So it's looking pretty good. I don't even think we're going to need to have to attach this hose or this piece onto here. We can do just like we did on the other side here and get this done. So I'm going to clean this kind of jagged where I made my cuts, and then I'm going to heat it up with the heat gun, and we're going to try to turn this into a circle. So you know, so it's more like the other side here, and then hopefully we'll put that glass down inside there and make it a nice flare. Okay, I found a glass that's just about the diameter of the where the factory stuff from Vintage Air. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat the crap out of this with the heat gun, and then I'm just going to try to massage this in there and make this nice and round. And then I'll probably put a glove on or something so I can kind of massage it and kind of mold it around there, and hopefully do that, because with my bare hand I can't take the heat. I can take a lot of heat, but this is so hot I can't hang on to it. So let me get this heated up, grab a glove, and then we'll see what we can do. Okay guys, I reheated it off camera. The little heat gun, this was a little monocoque for model airplanes heat gun. This was actually my dad's. He used to build gliders and other planes. He'd build them, I'd fly them. Well, more likely he'd build them, I'd crash them. But it didn't seem to put out enough heat, so I broke out the propane torch and got it warmed up pretty good. Let's see, it's about cool enough. Pull the glass out of there. Oh yeah, that came out pretty nice. With the extra heat, I was able, you can see right here, I was able to bend a nice little kink in there to get it away from that other vent. So I think we're going to do really good there. The problem is this glass was a little big, and I think it's going to come in bigger than, yeah, it's coming in bigger than the hose, so I don't think I can stretch a hose over this now. So, but it looks like this piece will slide inside there. So I think what I'll do is I'll cut this flange off right here and just simply epoxy that inside there, and that'll be a good connection. So I think that's going to work out great. So let me trim this off real quick, and we'll see how it fits in there, and maybe mix up some epoxy and get that put together. Okay, I got it cut, and it fits in there really nice. So that's a tight fit. So we're going to go ahead and try to epoxy this in and see what happens. I'll test it to make sure it sticks really well. I'll give it a couple of good yanks once it's set up all the way. But it should stick it in there. Hell, I can cram it in there, and it's in pretty tight, just friction fit. Okay. Whoa. Just going to cram this in there. Hold it for a little bit. Make sure it stays where we want it. That's actually looking pretty good right there. Okay, that looks good. I'm going to let it set up. We'll give it a test, and then we'll go back up underneath and see how it all looks.
Okay, we got it up in here, and as you can see, this vent right here just clears that other tube, so we'll be able to attach the defrosters hoses on, and it'll just go right around here. And then this one will go off this way, and this one will come over here, and then the other tube over here, of course, is clear. So it's all looking really good. Really happy the way it came out, and this is a great solution, you know, because you can't find the right parts. I mean, they're just not available. So I'm really happy the way this thing came out.
Okay, guys, that just about wraps up this project for today. What have you guys been working on? I'm basically running out of pictures to post at the end of the videos. I'm not able to do it every video. So send me those project pics. And if you guys haven't done anything on your projects, get out there and spend a few hours on it. Take some shots of what you did. Send them to me. Come on, let's get those things going. I want to see them on the road, not in the garage. So we got the center vent on the dash installed, and I wasn't positive how this was going to turn out, honestly. I didn't know if I could cut that hole without screwing it up, and thankfully I was able to. I didn't want to chuck that dash and have to buy another one and try again. And I was kind of, worried maybe that was going to look too big, inside there, but I think it looks really good. Obviously, it's not off a 65, but it's off a 66, so as close as we can get, and it looks really good. I know the owner's going to be thrilled with it. I know it's going to work well, too. So thanks for joining me here at Foothill Paint and Fabrication. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already, and mash that bell icon so you get notifications every time I release a new video. We'll see you on the next one.